My best friend's boyfriend destroyed her future and stole her innocence. So I tricked him into abandoning everything for a girl in Poland who didn't exist. Now he's in maximum security after what he did next. Arya was the type of girl that every baby and small animal immediately loved. So when she started going out with Troy, an ex-employee of my starter company, I strictly told her not to. Because even though me and Troy were technically friends, I knew what he was like. He once told me that he was thinking of breaking up with his girlfriend of 2 years because she didn't have naturally blonde hair. Meanwhile, Charlotte Stokely, his favorite corn star at the time, did. And once Troy makes a decision, it's like speaking to a brick wall. So the following week, he was single. And that's how Arya became his target. Now you may be wondering why we were friends in the first place. Well, Troy was the only friend I had left who still lived in his mom's basement and didn't have a job or a degree. Honestly, I was the only good thing in his life. And I was scared that if I ever cut him off like everyone else, he would unalive himself and put me in the note. So unfortunately, we stayed in contact. And on one of his late night benders, he did what he jokes as the Instagram method. It's basically where you scroll through all of your Instagram suggested and follow every girl you see. That's where Arya got hooked and baited. And because I was ashamed of my friendship with Troy, Arya had no idea I knew him, until their first date together, that is. She FaceTimed me the next day gushing, "I met this guy and he was so cool. He said he is going to be a millionaire soon and he told me I was beautiful." I instantly knew it was Troy. I debriefed her on everything. His body count of 50, his 100% failure rate of every relationship and talking stage, his countless addictions. But Arya was the type to see the best in people, even if there wasn't any. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I was blocked on everything. I checked in with her female friends and they said they were too. That's when I knew Troy had caught his next victim. And after 3 months, I tried to get in contact. I texted her mom asking if she was okay. I even got in contact with her brother. But Troy had everyone fooled because they both told me to stop being jealous and leave their relationship alone or they'd file charges. That's when I knew it was a waiting game. Fast forward to a year later when I got the text. It was Troy. "No, hello, how are you? Nothing, just one message. There's so many beautiful women out there. I still want Arya to be my girlfriend, but I want to F other girls and never plan a date again. Jackpot." I replied saying he was right and he deserved all the experiences that life had to offer. That idiot ate it up. And 20 minutes later, he broke up with her. As soon as he did, I went over to Arya's apartment. The first thing she did was hug me and tell me everything. She had nothing. Troy told her to drop out of college, to quit her job, to block all her friends. TBH. I was about to ask her how she could be so stupid, but then she said the words that still make my hands shake. Troy was abusing her in every way possible. In a single year, my best friend had everything stolen from her, including her innocence. Rage boiled my blood. And being a business owner, my brain is basically wired to think about everything as a long-term investment. So this was no different. I thought about the path Troy was on, how it would only lead him to prison. Or worse, a deadbeat loser that society would be better off publicly executing. So at that moment, I decided to do the best thing for him. I had to send him to rock bottom. But first, I told Arya she could work for me, and I would pay her double until she got back on her feet. Her face immediately lit up, and she promised to never talk to Troy again. Perfect. Because Troy may have had her and everyone else fooled, but I knew him, and I knew his weakness. Pretty girls and the devil's lettuce. That same day, I asked Pia, my head of sales, if she wanted to take down a jerk with me. She said yes. Together, we crafted the perfect dating app account, one that showed she was open for business but still had her V card, just the way Troy liked it. Arya told me he wouldn't move on so fast, but I knew better. And after just an hour, Pia got a like from Troy. She opened the conversation talking about how unfair it is that men have to pay for the first date. He replied instantly. After 2 days of texting and FaceTime calls, it was time to strike. She told him she was just visiting the area, but she didn't live in NYC. She lived in Poland, where the devil's lettuce is extremely cheap. And when he was already saying yes to moving in with her, I laughed until my ribs felt like they were going to jump out of my body. She told him the devil's lettuce was super cheap over there, and that's when he texted me. I thought he had figured me out, but luckily, he was just asking to borrow money for a work trip. I sent it straight away, and immediately, he texted Pia a screenshot of his one-way plane ticket. It wasn't until he was completely stranded at the airport, in the middle of the most rural and rackest part of Poland, that we both blocked him on everything. But unfortunately, Troy is a cockroach who can survive anywhere, and a year later, he came back ready to destroy everything I had worked for. The morning Troy landed back in New York, my phone buzzed with 17 missed calls. Not from him directly, but from numbers I didn't recognize. The first voicemail made my stomach drop. "This is regarding fraudulent business practices at your company. Please call back immediately." The second one was worse. "We received concerning reports about workplace harassment. Legal action may be necessary." By the fifth message, I knew exactly what was happening. Troy was back, and he was coming for everything I'd built. I called Pia into my office and showed her the messages. She listened to each one, her face growing paler. "These are all different voices," she said. "How did he get so many people involved?" I pulled up our company's Google reviews on my laptop. In the past 12 hours, we'd received 23 one-star reviews. Each one claimed different things: stolen money, harassment, discrimination, unsafe working conditions. The reviews were detailed enough to seem legitimate, but vague enough to avoid specifics we could disprove. Arya knocked on my door, holding her phone with shaking hands. "He's been messaging me," she said. "Not from his main account, from fake ones. Look." She showed me screenshot after screenshot. Different usernames, different profile pictures, but the writing style was unmistakably Troy's. Each message was slightly different. Some apologetic, some threatening, some trying to manipulate her into meeting him. The worst part was the photos. Pictures of her at the coffee shop yesterday, at the grocery store last week, walking into our office building this morning. I immediately called our building security to review the footage. While waiting for them to pull it up, more problems surfaced. 3 of our biggest clients called to express concerns about continuing their contracts. They'd all received anonymous emails detailing supposed financial irregularities in our company. The emails included just enough real information, like project names and dates to seem credible. Someone had been doing their homework. My younger cousin Jonathan called during lunch. He'd just graduated college and was eager to learn about entrepreneurship. "Hey, I met this guy at a networking event who says he knows you," he said excitedly. "Troy something? He offered me an internship at his new startup. Says he's launching next month and needs help with market research." My blood ran cold. I told Jonathan to stay away from Troy, but he laughed it off. "Come on, don't be jealous. He said you might react this way because you're competitors now." The security footage revealed Troy had been in our building's lobby 3 times that week, always during busy hours when he could blend in with the crowd. He never went past security, but he was clearly scoping out our routines. In one clip, he followed Arya into the building, staying just far enough behind to avoid suspicion. The security guard said Troy had asked about job opportunities and seemed friendly enough. By the end of the week, the situation escalated. Our company's Instagram account was flooded with spam comments, hundreds of bot accounts posting the same message about us being a scam. I spent hours blocking and reporting them, but new ones kept appearing. Then our website started getting hit with fake traffic, slowing it down during peak business hours. My tech employee, Catherine, traced the attacks to various IP addresses, but they were all routed through VPNs. The breaking point came when Jonathan showed up at our office with Troy. "I wanted you guys to meet properly," Jonathan said, oblivious to the tension. Troy stood there with a smug smile, wearing an expensive suit I knew he couldn't afford. "Just wanted to clear the air," Troy said. "No hard feelings about the past, right? We're all professionals here." He extended his hand for a handshake. I didn't take it. After they left, Jonathan texted me screenshots of the market research Troy had asked him to do. It was all about our company, our client list, our pricing structure, our upcoming projects. Jonathan had already gathered 2 weeks' worth of information before bringing Troy to meet me. When I explained the situation, Jonathan felt terrible, but the damage was done. Troy now had insider information about our operations. The fake reviews intensified. Some included details only someone with inside knowledge would know: former client names, specific project dates, internal process information. Catherine worked overtime documenting everything, creating a detailed timeline of when each review appeared and what information it contained. The pattern was clear. The reviews containing insider information started appearing exactly after Jonathan began his internship with Troy. Arya's situation worsened too. The messages evolved from creepy to threatening. One account sent her photos of her apartment building with the message, "Nice place." Another sent her old photos from when they were dating, edited in disturbing ways. She started staying at her sister's place, but even there, she received a food delivery she hadn't ordered. The receipt had a special message section that read, "I know where you are." I hired a private security company to escort Arya to and from work. It was expensive, but necessary. The security guard, a former military woman named Kathy, took the job seriously. On her 3rd day, she spotted Troy sitting in a car across from our building. When she approached him, he drove off quickly, but not before Kathy got his license plate number. It was a rental car, paid for in cash. Our client problems multiplied. 5 more companies called with concerns. Troy had been contacting them directly, presenting himself as a former insider, willing to share the truth about our company. He mixed enough real information with lies to make his claims seem credible. One client forwarded me Troy's email. He'd written a 3-page document detailing supposed ethical violations, financial mismanagement, and toxic workplace culture. Every accusation was carefully crafted to be hard to disprove without revealing confidential information. I decided to fight back strategically. First, I sent a company-wide email explaining the situation without mentioning Troy by name. I wanted everyone to be aware of potential security threats and social engineering attempts. Then, I hired a lawyer to send cease and desist letters to all the email addresses Troy had used. Most were probably disposable, but I wanted a paper trail. Catherine implemented new security measures, including 2-factor authentication for all company systems and regular password changes. The breakthrough came when Pia remembered something. During their fake dating app conversations, Troy had bragged about his business strategies. She'd recorded some of their video calls for evidence. In one recording, Troy explicitly described his plan to destroy anyone who crosses me and mentioned specific tactics like fake reviews, client harassment, and social media attacks. He even laughed about how easy it was to manipulate people with a little bit of truth mixed with lies. I compiled everything into a comprehensive folder: screenshots of fake reviews, security footage, Arya's harassment messages, the recorded conversations, Jonathan's testimony about being manipulated, client emails. Everything was organized chronologically with detailed notes. Catherine found additional evidence by cross-referencing the fake review accounts. Many were created on the same dates, used similar language patterns, and had reviewed the same random businesses, creating a clear connection. With our evidence folder complete, I called Troy's mother. She was a reasonable woman who'd always been embarrassed by her son's behavior. I explained the situation calmly, focusing on facts rather than emotions. She listened quietly, occasionally sighing. "I've been enabling him for too long," she finally said. "Let me see what I can do." 2 days later, she called back. She'd found even more evidence on Troy's computer: screenshots of his harassment campaigns, documents planning his attacks on our business, even a spreadsheet tracking which lies he'd told to which people. Troy's mother gave him an ultimatum: stop immediately and get professional help, or she would cut off all financial support and kick him out permanently. She also threatened to share the evidence with any future employers or business partners. Troy initially resisted, but when he realized we had recordings of him admitting to his plans, he had no choice. His mother arranged for him to enter an intensive therapy program that addressed both his behavioral issues and his substance dependencies. The cleanup took months. We had to rebuild our online reputation, reassure clients, and implement new security measures. Some clients never came back, but others respected how we handled the situation. Arya started therapy to deal with the trauma and slowly rebuilt her confidence. She eventually launched her own consulting business, using the skills she'd learned at our company. Jonathan felt terrible about his role and volunteered to help with our cybersecurity improvements, becoming genuinely valuable to our team. 6 months later, I received a letter from Troy. It was different from anything he'd ever written. He took full responsibility for his actions, acknowledged the harm he'd caused, and didn't ask for forgiveness. He wrote about his therapy progress and how he was working to understand why he'd behaved so destructively. His therapist had helped him realize his pattern of blaming others for his failures and his inability to handle rejection. He ended by saying he was committed to becoming a better person, regardless of whether anyone ever forgave him. Our company emerged stronger from the ordeal. The security measures we implemented prevented future attacks. The team bonding that occurred while fighting Troy's harassment created a more unified workplace culture. Aria's success with her own business inspired other employees to pursue their dreams while maintaining good relationships with us. Even Jonathan became a valuable part of our extended network, his experience making him extremely cautious about information security. The whole experience taught us that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone, but protecting what you've built and helping them find the help they need. The letter from Troy should have been the end of it, but 3 weeks later, Catherine burst into my office with her laptop. "You need to see this," she said, pulling up a new website. It was a professional-looking business page for Phoenix Consulting Group, with Troy listed as the CEO. The site claimed they specialized in business rehabilitation and corporate reputation management. My stomach churned as I read through the services offered. Every single one seemed designed to counter what we did at my company. Catherine clicked through to the testimonials page. There were dozens of glowing reviews from business owners claiming Troy had saved their companies from predatory competitors. Each testimonial included subtle digs at businesses that sounded suspiciously like ours. The dates on these reviews went back months, even while Troy was supposedly in therapy. Catherine had already done some digging. The domain was registered through a privacy service, but she'd found social media profiles linking back to it, all created recently. That afternoon, 3 of our current clients called to cancel meetings. They were polite but vague about their reasons. By the end of the day, 2 more had sent formal notices ending their contracts. The termination letters all used similar language about exploring new strategic partnerships. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. I called our lawyer, but he said without concrete proof of interference, there wasn't much we could do. Aria came to my office the next morning looking exhausted. She'd been getting calls from unknown numbers at all hours. When she answered, there was just breathing on the other end. Her new business email had been flooded with spam, making it impossible to find legitimate client inquiries. Someone had also been leaving reviews on her business page, praising her work, but mentioning how she'd overcome a difficult past and was brave for starting fresh after everything. The reviews seemed positive on the surface, but painted her as damaged goods. I decided to do some investigating of my own. I created a fake business profile and reached out to Phoenix Consulting Group for a consultation. The response came within hours, eager to set up a meeting. The email signature included a team of 5 consultants, but something felt off about their names and profiles. A reverse image search revealed all their headshots were stock photos. The Phoenix Consulting Group was a one-man show, and that man was Troy. During our team meeting that week, I noticed Jonathan acting strangely. He kept checking his phone and excusing himself to take calls. When I asked if everything was okay, he mumbled something about family issues. But Pia had overheard him on one of his calls, and she said he'd been talking about market analysis and competitive advantages. My heart sank. Troy had gotten to him again. I confronted Jonathan privately after the meeting. At first, he denied everything. Then he broke down and admitted Troy had been contacting him for weeks. Troy claimed he was building a legitimate business and needed Jonathan's help to level the playing field. He'd convinced Jonathan that I'd sabotaged his recovery and that he deserved a second chance. Troy had even shown Jonathan fake documents suggesting I'd stolen business ideas from him years ago. The manipulation ran deeper than I'd imagined. Troy had created an entire narrative where he was the victim of my jealousy and sabotage. He'd been reaching out to mutual acquaintances from our past, spinning tales of how I'd held him back and stolen his opportunities. Some people saw through it, but others were starting to believe his version of events. My reputation in certain business circles was taking a hit. Catherine discovered Troy had been purchasing contact lists that included our client information. He was using sophisticated email spoofing techniques to make it appear like negative messages about our company were coming from trusted sources. One client forwarded me an email that seemed to be from a government regulatory agency, warning about an investigation into our business practices. Catherine traced it back to a server Troy had set up using cryptocurrency payments. The harassment escalated when Aria found a GPS tracker on her car. Kathy, her security escort, had noticed the same vehicle appearing at multiple locations where Aria went. The car was always different, but Kathy recognized the driving patterns. Someone was coordinating multiple people to follow Aria. When we reported it to the police, they said without proof of who was behind it, they couldn't do much more than file a report. I hired a cybersecurity firm to audit our systems. They found several attempted breaches in the past month, all targeting our client database and financial records. The attacks were sophisticated, using methods that required significant technical knowledge or resources. Troy might have been working alone on the surface, but he had help. The firm installed advanced monitoring software and helped us implement even stricter security protocols. Pia came up with an idea to expose Troy's operation. She still had access to the fake dating profile she'd used before. She reactivated it, and sure enough, Troy reached out within days. He didn't seem to recognize it was the same profile. Pia played along, pretending to be a struggling business owner looking for help. Troy immediately started his pitch, claiming he could help her take down her competition using proprietary methods he'd developed. During their conversations, Troy revealed more than he should have. He bragged about his network of consultants who could create public pressure campaigns. He mentioned having access to databases of consumer information. He even hinted at connections with people who could solve problems for the right price. Pia recorded everything, building a new evidence file of Troy's current activities. The turning point came when one of our employees, someone who'd been with us for years, suddenly resigned. In her exit interview, she mentioned getting a better offer from a consulting firm that valued her expertise. price. 2 days later, Catherine found our proprietary client management system being sold on a dark web marketplace. The seller claimed to have insider access to our company. We immediately changed all passwords and revoked access, but the damage was done. I called Troy's mother again, hoping she could intervene. She was horrified to learn he'd been lying about his progress. She'd been paying for his therapy and supporting him financially, believing he was getting better. She confronted him that night, and he apparently flew into a rage, accusing her of taking my side. She called me back in tears, saying she didn't recognize her son anymore. Jonathan came clean about everything Troy had asked him to do. He'd been feeding Troy information about our new clients, upcoming projects, and internal processes. Troy had promised him a partnership in Phoenix Consulting Group once it took off. Jonathan had kept copies of all their communications, including voice recordings where Troy explicitly discussed plans to destroy our business. The guilt was eating Jonathan alive, and he wanted to make things right. We organized our evidence again, this time with the help of a professional investigator I'd hired. The investigator had been following Troy's money trail and discovered he'd been funded by a competitor who'd lost several clients to us over the years. This competitor had been using Troy as a proxy to attack our business without getting their hands dirty. The investigator also found Troy had been recruiting people from online forums dedicated to business warfare and competitive intelligence. Arya's situation reached a crisis point when she came home to find her apartment door slightly open. Nothing was stolen, but things had been moved around. Photos were rearranged. Her laptop was open to her email. A note on her kitchen counter simply said, "Nice place." Building security footage showed someone in a delivery uniform entering with a package, but the face was obscured. Arya moved in with her sister immediately, and we hired round-the-clock security for her. The fake Phoenix Consulting Group started actively poaching our clients with impossibly low prices. They promised the same services we offered at a fraction of the cost. Several clients were tempted, but when they asked for references or examples of past work, Troy could only provide vague responses. Still, 2 smaller clients decided to take the risk and switch. Within weeks, they were calling us back, saying Phoenix had taken their deposits and delivered nothing. Catherine uncovered a network of fake social media accounts all promoting Phoenix Consulting Group and attacking our company. The accounts had been created over several months, slowly building followers and credibility before launching their coordinated campaign. They spread rumors about our financial instability, questioned our ethics, and shared fabricated stories about dissatisfied clients. Some of our real clients started asking uncomfortable questions. I realized we needed to go on the offensive. I reached out to every client personally, explaining the situation without going into unnecessary detail. Most were understanding and appreciated the transparency. We offered additional security measures for their data and implemented new verification procedures for all communications. We also started a positive campaign highlighting our successful projects and client testimonials, drowning out the fake negativity with real success stories. Troy made a critical mistake when he tried to infiltrate our company directly. He sent in a consultant to interview for an open position. The woman was qualified and interviewed well, but something felt off. Catherine did a deep background check and found inconsistencies in her employment history. During the second interview, I asked specific questions about her supposed previous employer. She stumbled, gave contradictory answers, and eventually admitted Troy had coached her on what to say. The woman, whose real name was Sarah, was desperate for work, and Troy had promised her a guaranteed position if she could get inside our company. She agreed to cooperate with us in exchange for us not pursuing charges. She revealed Troy had several other people lined up to apply for positions at our company. He was planning to place multiple insiders who would sabotage projects, steal client data, and create internal conflict. We used Sarah as a double agent. We hired her for a limited contract position with restricted access, and she reported back to Troy with false information we carefully crafted. Through her, we learned about Troy's next moves before he made them. He was planning a major attack during our upcoming industry conference, where we were scheduled to present to potential investors. His plan involved disrupting our presentation and spreading damaging rumors to attendees. I contacted the conference organizers and explained the security threat. They took it seriously and implemented additional measures. They also discovered Troy had registered to attend under a false company name. His registration was revoked, and security was instructed to watch for him. We also prepared contingency plans for our presentation, including backup systems and alternative venues if needed. The week before the conference, things escalated dramatically. Our office building's fire alarm went off 3 times due to false reports. Each evacuation disrupted our work and stressed our employees. Delivery drivers showed up with food orders we hadn't placed, creating chaos in our lobby. Our internet service was mysteriously cut twice, with the provider saying someone had called to cancel our account. Catherine worked overtime to maintain our operations despite the constant interruptions. Arya received a package at her sister's house containing printed screenshots of every social media post she'd made in the past year, with certain photos circled in red. The message was clear that nowhere was safe. We immediately filed police reports and upgraded her security again. Kathy recommended Arya temporarily relocate to stay with friends in another state, but Arya refused to let Troy drive her from her home. Troy's mother reached out one more time, devastated by what her son had become. She'd discovered he'd been stealing from her to fund his operation. He'd taken out credit cards in her name and had been slowly draining her retirement savings. She was working with law enforcement to address the identity theft, but she also wanted to help us stop him. She provided access to his email accounts and cloud storage, where we found detailed plans for destroying not just our business, but several others who'd wronged him. The evidence showed Troy had built a network of about 15 people who helped with various aspects of his schemes. Some were technical experts who helped with cyber attacks. Others were good at social manipulation. A few were just desperate people he'd convinced to help with promises of easy money. Most didn't know the full scope of what Troy was doing. They thought they were just participating in aggressive business competition. We worked with our lawyer to prepare a comprehensive case. The evidence was overwhelming, but we needed to be strategic about how to use it. Going public too soon soon might make us look petty or vindictive. Waiting too long could allow Troy to cause more damage. We decided to give him one final warning through his mother. Stop all activities immediately, return any stolen data, and cease all contact with our employees and clients, or we would pursue every avenue available. Troy's response came through a lawyer he'd somehow afforded. The letter accused us of harassment, defamation, and anti-competitive practices. It threatened countersuits if we continued to spread lies about his legitimate business operations. The lawyer seemed to genuinely believe Troy's version of events, which showed how convincing Troy could be when he wanted to be. We responded through our lawyer with a small sample of our evidence, making it clear we were prepared for a legal battle if necessary. The conference arrived with tension running high. We'd implemented every security measure possible. Kathy personally coordinated with venue security. Catherine had backup systems ready for our presentation. Pia and I rehearsed responses to potential disruptions. Even Jonathan volunteered to help, wanting to make amends for his earlier betrayal. The first day went smoothly, but we stayed vigilant, knowing Troy wouldn't give up easily. On the second day of the conference, during our main presentation, the fire alarm went off. The entire venue had to evacuate, ruining our carefully planned investor pitch. Security footage later showed someone who looked like Troy entering a restricted area just before the alarm triggered, but he'd been clever, keeping his face hidden from cameras and using a fake conference badge. We had suspicions, but no definitive proof it was him. Despite the disruption, we managed to connect with several investors after the evacuation. We explained the situation honestly, and surprisingly, many were impressed by how we handled the crisis. One investor even said dealing with such targeted attacks showed we were a threat to established players, which meant we were doing something right. We ended up securing 2 new partnerships, though we'd hoped for more. After the conference, Troy's attacks intensified. He filed complaints with multiple business regulatory agencies, each requiring time and resources to address. He created websites with domain names similar to ours, redirecting potential clients to pages filled with negative information. He even started contacting our employees' families, telling them their loved ones worked for a corrupt company. The psychological toll on our team was significant. The psychological warfare reached new heights when Catherine discovered someone had been impersonating our company at job fairs. They were collecting resumes and personal information from candidates, promising interviews that would never happen. We spent days contacting each person to warn them about the identity theft risk. One candidate mentioned the recruiter had asked detailed questions about their previous employers, clearly fishing for information Troy could use against other businesses. I decided to turn Troy's tactics against him. We created our own fake client profile and reached out to Phoenix Consulting Group for their services. Troy took the bait immediately, eager to showcase his revolutionary business strategies. During our video consultation, he revealed his entire playbook. He demonstrated software for creating fake reviews, showed templates for spoofed emails, and even offered to connect us with his special contacts for more aggressive tactics. Catherine recorded everything. The situation with our employees became critical when 3 more people submitted resignations in the same week. Each claimed to have received better offers elsewhere, but the timing was suspicious. Through some careful conversations, I learned they'd all been contacted by the same headhunter, who knew specific details about their roles and compensation. The headhunter had promised significant salary increases at a mysterious new firm launching soon. Aria's stalking situation escalated dangerously. She woke up one morning to find her car tires slashed and a bouquet of dead flowers on her windshield. The security cameras at her sister's apartment complex had been spray-painted black the night before. Kathy immediately moved Aria to a hotel under a false name, but somehow, room service showed up with a complimentary breakfast she hadn't ordered. The card simply read, "You can't hide forever." Jonathan proved his commitment to making amends by going undercover. He pretended to still be loyal to Troy while feeding us information about his plans. Troy was preparing something he called Operation Scorched Earth, targeting not just our company, but also Aria's new business and even Pia's personal reputation. He'd hired people to dig up dirt on everyone close to me, planning to release everything simultaneously for maximum damage. Catherine made a breakthrough when she traced the funding for Troy's operation. The competitor who'd been bankrolling him was a company we'd outbid for a major contract last year. They'd been funneling money through multiple shell companies to maintain distance. Armed with this information, I reached out to their CEO directly. He claimed ignorance, but when I presented the evidence, his tone changed quickly. The CEO agreed to meet in person. He brought his lawyer and tried to intimidate me into dropping the matter. I calmly laid out every piece of evidence linking his company to Troy's attacks: bank transfers, email communications, even recordings of phone calls between Troy and his head of operations. The CEO's face went pale when he realized the legal implications. Corporate sabotage charges would destroy his company's reputation. We reached an understanding. The CEO would immediately cut all funding to Troy and provide written testimony about their arrangement. In exchange, we wouldn't pursue legal action against his company directly. He also agreed to pay damages to cover our security costs and lost business. It wasn't complete justice, but it was strategic. Without funding, Troy's operation would crumble. Troy didn't take the news well. When his corporate sponsor pulled out, he became desperate. The attacks became sloppier, but more frequent. Poorly made fake websites, obviously bot-generated reviews, and amateur hacking attempts. Catherine easily blocked most of them, but the sheer volume was exhausting. Our entire team was on edge, constantly looking over their shoulders. The breaking point came during a client presentation. Troy had somehow gotten into the building dressed as a maintenance worker. He burst into our conference room shouting accusations about fraud and theft. Security removed him quickly, but the damage was done. Our clients looked shaken. I spent the next hour calmly explaining the situation, showing them the evidence of Troy's harassment campaign. Surprisingly, they were more concerned about our security than the accusations. That night, Troy's mother called me sobbing. Troy had shown up at her house in a rage, demanding money. When she refused, he'd become violent, throwing things and screaming threats. She'd locked herself in the bathroom and called the police. They'd They'd arrested him for domestic disturbance and destruction of property. She was pressing charges this time, finally accepting that enabling him had only made things worse. While Troy sat in jail, we worked to dismantle his network. Sarah helped us identify the other people he'd recruited. Most were relieved when we offered them a way out without legal consequences. They'd been promised easy money but had received nothing but paranoia and fear. Several provided written statements about Troy's manipulation and the illegal activities he'd asked them to perform. Catherine discovered Troy had been planning one final attack. He'd scheduled multiple automated posts across dozens of platforms, all set to release if he didn't manually stop them every 24 hours. It was his insurance policy. The posts contained a mix of real information stolen from our company, fabricated scandals, and personal attacks on everyone who'd wronged him. We had less than 18 hours to stop it. Working with our cybersecurity firm, we traced the servers hosting Troy's automated system. They were scattered across different countries, making it legally complex to shut them down. Instead, we had to get creative. Catherine found vulnerabilities in Troy's code, evidence of his rushed, paranoid work. We couldn't delete the posts, but we could redirect them. Every link would lead to a page documenting Troy's crimes with our evidence. The clock was ticking when Jonathan had an idea. Troy's mother still had power of attorney from when Troy had been hospitalized years ago. She could legally access his accounts and shut down the servers. We rushed to her house with the paperwork. Her hands shook as she signed the forms, but her resolve was firm. She wanted this nightmare to end as much as we did. With legal authorization, Catherine worked her magic. One by one, the servers went dark. The automated posts never fired. Troy's final weapon was neutralized, but we kept monitoring, knowing Troy might have backup plans. Our vigilance paid off when we caught 3 more attempts to breach our systems from devices we hadn't known about. Each one was blocked and traced back to Troy's network. Troy's bail hearing became a turning point. His mother refused to post bail, and his lawyer abandoned him when the full scope of his activities became clear. The judge, reviewing the evidence of systematic harassment, cybercrime, and stalking, set bail impossibly high. Troy would remain in custody until trial. For the first time in months, we could breathe. Our company slowly returned to normal operations. Clients who'd left started reaching out, having realized Phoenix Consulting Group was a sham. We didn't take them all back, focusing instead on rebuilding with those who'd stood by us. The experience had taught us valuable lessons about security and the importance of protecting our people. We implemented new policies and invested heavily in cybersecurity. Aria's business began thriving once the harassment stopped. She landed several major clients who respected her resilience. The ordeal had been traumatic, but she'd emerged stronger. Kathy, who'd become a close friend during the protection detail, joined Aria's company as head of operations. Together, they built something special, with security protocols that made their business fortress-like. The investigation revealed Troy's network had targeted 7 other companies. We shared our evidence and strategies with them, helping them protect themselves. Some had already suffered significant damage, losing clients and employees to Troy's schemes. Together, we formed an informal alliance, sharing information about new threats and supporting each other's businesses. Jonathan's redemption was complete when he uncovered a critical piece of evidence, hidden in Troy's communications. He found proof of plans to target our investors directly. Troy had been gathering personal information about their families, planning to use it as leverage. We immediately warned them, and they appreciated our transparency. Several increased their investment, impressed by how we'd handled the crisis. Months passed before Troy's trial began. We submitted mountains of evidence, testified about the damage he'd caused, and watched as his other victims told their stories. Troy sat silently through it all, his arrogance finally deflated. His mother attended every day, tears streaming down her face as she heard the full extent of her son's actions. She apologized to each victim personally. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts: fraud, cybercrime, stalking, harassment, identity theft, and more. The judge, noting the systematic nature of Troy's crimes and his complete lack of remorse, handed down the maximum sentence. Troy would spend years in prison, followed by strict probation that would prevent him from using computers or contacting any of his victims. As we left the courthouse, I felt strange. Not happy exactly, but relieved. Justice had been served, but the victory felt hollow. Troy had wasted his intelligence and energy on destruction when he could have built something meaningful. His mother hugged me outside, thanking me for finally holding him accountable. She looked older, worn down by the ordeal, but also somehow lighter. Our company emerged transformed. We'd lost some battles but won the war. Our team was tighter, our security unbreachable, and our reputation actually enhanced by how we'd handled the crisis. New clients sought us out specifically because they'd heard about our resilience. We'd turned Troy's attacks into a testament to our strength. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from prison. Troy's handwriting, but different somehow, less aggressive. He wrote about prison therapy programs and taking responsibility. He didn't ask for forgiveness or make excuses, just acknowledged the pain he'd caused and promised to use his time inside to become better. I didn't respond, but I kept the letter. Aria opened a second office, her business booming. She hired several people who'd been targeted by Troy, giving them fresh starts. Pia was promoted to partner at our company. Catherine launched her own cybersecurity firm with our blessing and investment. Jonathan earned his MBA and joined our leadership team. Even Sarah, who'd helped expose Troy's plans, found legitimate work with a company that valued her honesty about her past mistakes. We'd all grown from the experience, building something stronger than before.